Okay, so this is where we had left off the last time. We're taking a look at an example of adding two numbers, two values basically, and I hope you've been practicing. Okay, so let's continue today with taking a look at some of other data types and taking also a look at your if-else statements and see how important they are. So, if you've been using VS Code and if you've set up your file explorer in here, I showed you how to do it the last time, so you can refer back to my video for that. It's very easy to create new files right within the app. You don't need to go fishing around in the explorer, right? So, as you can see, you can create a new folder or you can create a new file. You can even delete these things if you right click. There's a delete option. Okay, so proper structure can be maintained. Okay, so we need to create a new file. So let's click on the button. I'll give it a name. More examples. Make sure there are no spaces in between the name of the file that you give. .cpp. And as you can see, it's instantly detected that it's a C++ file because it changed the icon. Okay. Let's get the usual stuff. So hash include the header file, iostream. I like to space it out, but that's my personal preference. Using namespace std, all right. Int main. Okay. This is the basic C++ structure, as I have been saying. We can get away without using this particular line, but we'll discuss that when in one of my upcoming videos on namespaces. Okay, so be sure to be subscribed for that. Anyways, so today let's take a look at bool. Okay, now if I type bool here, it tells me that it's a not triple O. If I type bool here, it tells me that it's a C++ keyword. Okay, bool is a data type which has only two possibilities. It's the binary data type that I mentioned the last time. Okay, the answer is either yes or no, either 0 or 1. Bool works with true or false. The value can either be true or it can either be false. There is no in between. So taking a real life example, you can either be visible or you can be invisible. There is no in between, right? There's no adjusting the alpha value of a real life object to 50% or whatever. You can either be visible or you can be invisible. There is no in between. And that's what bool is. Only two possible outcomes, true or false. Okay, so let's take a value, bool outcome, and I will initialize this to true. Okay, so like I said, bool works with only true or false. Now, if I say this, if outcome, okay, cout hello guys. Okay, let me save that and we'll run that. Let's see what happens. It's compiling. Okay, there we go. I don't know why it took that long, but yes, it says hello guys. Now this means what we did was I used a simple if statement. Now, don't get confused over here because this might be a little different from how you have been working, or if it's totally new, then it's awesome. Okay, what I did was I told the compiler that, hey, if my bool outcome equals true, then you need to go ahead and print this statement to the terminal. Okay? And it is true. How do I know that it's true? Because I've initialized it to true. Remember, initialization, as we discussed in my last video, is to assign a value to a variable at the time of declaration. Okay, so I have initialized it to true. So I can say that if outcome, then you can go ahead and print hello guys to the terminal. There is another way of doing this, of course. You can come in here and say double equals true. Okay, this works totally fine, as you can see. Let me save that. I will clear this terminal screen so that it doesn't get confusing. And let's run the code again. There you go. Hello guys. So you can do this, or you can just stick to this. Okay, it's just another way of doing things. Doesn't really matter that much. Okay. Now the question is, what would happen if the outcome was false? If I am saying that if outcome, but what would happen if the outcome was false? Okay, I can go here, go ahead and say else. Okay, let me put that a little bit behind. Okay, else if, now pay attention, this can get confusing at times. Exclamation mark, outcome, cout, what's up? Okay, let's save that. Let's run the code. And it's compiling. Here you go. What's up? Now, what did I just do here? I put an exclamation mark before outcome. Outcome is the variable that we declared up here. So I put an exclamation mark ahead of it. And when you do that inside your if-else statements, what it means is, without exclamation mark, obviously, it means that if outcome. But if there is an exclamation mark, then you have to say it like else if no outcome. This is equivalent to writing outcome double equals false. Okay, it's the same thing. But you can go ahead and shorten your work, and you can have an exclamation mark over here, and this practically means the same thing, else if no outcome. Okay, this was just a little intro into the world of Bool. I hope you're understanding. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments. Okay, now moving on. You're probably seeing this if and else if thing for the first time. If not, well done. But if you are, then you should know this. They are exactly what the name suggests. They are used for if-else conditions. Okay, if this happens, what should happen? Or if this happens, what else should happen? Okay, so this is an if and else if loop. Suppose you want to give out conditions for the same logic, okay, the same logic. Then, and there are multiple conditions, okay, so you can go ahead and say if condition blah blah blah, else if condition blah blah blah, else if condition blah blah blah. You can have all the else ifs, as many as you want, provided that it's for the same logic. Okay, if you want to do two different things, so for example, I have a bool outcome equals false here, and then I will say integer x equals 6 and y equals 7. Okay, yes, you can do that. You can declare and initialize variables of the same data type like this. If I was to say this, now I can, of course, come in here and say else if x greater than 7, and then blah blah blah, whatever has to happen. We obviously know that x is not greater than 7, but yeah, but this is computationally and logically wrong. Why? Because else if condition is being used for this particular logic or this particular loop. It's not really a loop, but I think you're starting to understand. Okay, so if you're working towards the same condition or the same outcome, use if, else if. But if in there you change it, go ahead and use if. Okay, and the best thing about this is, if it's all confusing you, you don't even have to use else if. You can totally get away with it. Just use if. Okay, it's going to work out completely fine. Okay. Now, the last thing is the else condition. I hope you've understood so far. Lastly, we have the else condition. Okay. What that means is, once you've cycled through all the possible conditions from your if and else if statements, you can use else for your last remaining condition. Again, it's totally up to you. You can go ahead and use if all the way to the end of the world. But if you just want to add in some variety to your code, you can use else. But keep in mind that else does not take any condition in between. Okay? As you can see, there is no bracket. Don't get confused between else and else if. Else if is completely different. All right? Else if is completely different. See? When I type else if, it tells me that I have to put in some sort of condition here. But for else, that's not the case. You do not put conditions in else because it takes up the only remaining condition. All right? Also, else cannot work without if. So if I was to comment out this part all the way up to here, my else will give me an error. As you can see, a red squiggly line in VS Code means that it's an error. So it expects a statement. It expects some sort of a statement. Which statement does it expect? It expects an if statement, because else cannot exist without an if. And I hope you know why, because I just told you. Else is the last remaining condition. I hope you've understood what bool is and what if and if else are. If you've not understood, if you're having some trouble understanding them, that's totally okay. As long as you're following and you're understanding what is happening, okay, you're totally all right. Also, one more thing. Let me give you a real life example of where you can possibly use a bool. Okay, suppose you're creating a game. Suppose you're writing code for a game, okay? And you want to enable the jump functionality. But you don't want to have a double jump, okay? You just want to have a single jump. So when you press the spacebar or whichever key it is or whichever button it is, the character jumps up and then falls back to the ground. Okay? But in that case, since you don't want a double jump, you want to have a way of checking whether the character is on the ground. Correct? If you don't want to have a double jump, that means you only want the character to jump when he or she or it is on the ground. Right? So, in that case, you can go ahead and create a bool, is grounded or something, and initialize it to true, because initially the character will be on the ground. And then, once you've done that, you can go ahead and write the code for jumping. Right? And once it's in the air, once you've put the code for jumping, right, that if I press this button, let's go ahead and visualize it. If I press spacebar, all right, what should happen? Character jumps. Now that the character is in the air, I will go ahead and say is grounded equals false. Okay. And this particular block of code, I will only execute if bool grounded is true. Okay. So I can have another condition which initializes, which converts is grounded to true, or I can have this as well. If is grounded, as we saw here. right? I hope that made sense. That's it for today. Thank you for watching the video. Hit the like button if you liked it. Hit the subscribe button if you loved it. And if for some reason you did not love it, then I don't know, just subscribe. What does it cost you? Practically nothing. I will see you next time.